I want to talk about the dangers of complacency and the importance of having a plan, or at least something that you can jot down to strive for and to achieve for. This whole speakdom was inspired by a recent podcast taping I did where I talked to Brandon Draven about sort of my plan for what I'm going to do for the next 3 or 4 years as far as my finances go, right? How to effectively invest my money and take care of it to where I'll be okay, even after I decide to hang it up once and for all from YouTube, which won't be for quite some time, years most likely. And we talked about, complacency, and I was thinking about how a lot of my audience, in my analytics, we've got people who are anywhere from age 15 all the way to like 40. Usually after 40, they start to drop off, even though I think that as the years go by, because this nerd stuff is essentially a lot of retro stuff, I think that, that number will go up. The older audience will go up. The younger one will too. I feel like a lot of people are probably out there with trying to wonder what to do in life. Because one of the scariest things that I've experienced, even though with me I got kind of lucky because I got right into the workforce quickly, but one of the things that I've seen a lot of my friends go through even worse than me is when you graduate college, you get your degree, you're done, whether it be associates, bachelor's, whatever you want to get, certification, and then you don't know what to do with your life. You're like basically like a dog, a deer in headlights. You're basically a deer in headlights, not really sure what to do now that you've finished up with school. And what to do when you actually start, I guess, being successful. Now, one thing I will tell you is the concept of success is very different for every person. So it's never fair to measure your success with somebody else's. It's not fair. It's not fair to you, and it's not fair to them. Your goal might be to become a wealthy business owner or an actual investor. Someone else's goal might just be to get married and have kids, marry their dream woman and have kids and just kind of work the rest of their lives. They're doing their, 40 hours a week and just kind of live like that, but everyone's success is measured differently. But the important thing is no matter what your goals are, you need to have at least a tentative plan of what you want to do. I guess the traditional way, the most common way is to just get a job and then try to get a promotion from within the company. That's the most, most common. Another thing you can do is go into business for yourself, which I've been talking a lot about on these speakdoms in the past. I'm very big on being self-employed for various reasons, but there's pros and cons to being self-employed and being employed. I might do a whole video on that at some point, actually go through the pros and cons. But the important thing is that, again, whichever road you take, have a plan. Because you have to understand that one of the things that goes on in the world, not just the United States, is that the cost of living and inflation goes up. That's like an inevitable thing. We haven't seen any deflation in Lord knows how long. It's been forever. And with the idea that the cost of living and inflation is constantly going up, you have to keep in mind that with these things happening, you can't really waste too much time. When I was, the reason why I'm even talking about this is because I've wasted time before. I'm trying to prevent you from being who I was. So when I graduated high school, back in way back, I got a job at McDonald's and I worked there for a few months. Hated it. Then I got a job digging trenches for this construction company. Underpaid like crazy. At McDonald's I was making $5.50 an hour. That should be illegal, by the way. I've talked about McDonald's before on here. And at the construction company I was making $7 an hour. Literally destroying my body in the sun, digging trenches for 8 hours a day. It was really bad. And afterward, I didn't work for about a year and a half. I stayed at home literally all day, living with my parents, being a slob, drinking, soda pop all day, doing nothing. I wrote rap reviews for fun, didn't make any real money doing it. And then in 2005, I decided to not only get a job, a real job, a real job, not the crap ones I had before. as a loan counselor, but I also decided to go to school. And I actually did the thing where I went to school and I worked at the same time, which a lot of people seem to be afraid to do. Stop being a pussy, yo. If you have to do this and work your ass off in life, you're going to have to work your ass off in life and make sacrifices. Everything comes with a sacrifice, everything. So, some people, I don't know if I want to work and go to school. I understand it's hard, dude, but I did it. Check out my schedule. I would wake up at like 6:30 in the morning. I had to be in class at 8. From 8 to 2, I was in class. Then I started my job at 4. So I was able to go home and take a nap for like half an hour. Then I hopped in a car and went to work at 3:30. Got there at 4. Stayed there till 11:30 at night. Didn't get home till midnight. Then I had to wake up again the next day at 6 and do it. So we're talking about 6 hours of sleep every day, sometimes less than that, because I wouldn't go right to bed when I got home. I would do things. I would catch up on TV shows I missed or whatever. I'd relieve stress. See what I'm saying? I did it, and other friends of mine have done it too. And sometimes you have to do it. Sometimes you have to go to school and go to work at the same time. It's hard, but you got to do it sometimes. The important thing is you can't waste too much time. I wasted 1.5 years, and I regret it back then. You can't waste too much time. You got to think about and at least have a direction to go to where you can say to yourself, okay, how can I earn money to pay these bills? What can I do? And some of y'all have it, some of y'all have it easier than others. Some of y'all have family and friends to stay with. Some of y'all have parents who that's good. Like, take advantage of that. But if you are staying with your parents, just because it's happening more commonly nowadays because of how bad the economy is. But if you are staying with your parents and you haven't gotten your education yet, get your education with your parents if you want. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But make sure that when you do it, you at least start thinking of a goal afterward. You got to start thinking of a way to leave the nest. Because I do think that at some point, I understand some cultures and I've dated girls that are like this, where they stay with their parents until, they find a man. Right? They live there until they find a man. Then they move out. It's an old school kind of, Middle Eastern, Mediterranean kind of culture. European style. And again, that's fine. But I mean, I think that I still feel that as people, we should leave our parents' houses. And I'm not saying you can't go back if stuff gets hard. But I think we should leave at some point and experience the real world. When you live by yourself or with roommates in an apartment you have to pay rent for, you really experience the real world. You start to see the true value of a dollar. Start to see how, what you spend can matter. And you start to see how sometimes you're going to live with people who you're not compatible with. They might have a different hygiene routine than you have. They might be very bad at doing things that you're very good at, and vice versa. Or they might be too loud, or maybe you're too loud. There's always, a possibility of there being a conflict. And, you learn from these life experiences. You learn. Complacency is always a bad thing. It's always good I think it's always good to always look forward. And I'm not saying you have to act on it today, but create a plan. And again, I always tell people to write stuff down. The reason why I want you to write it down, and here's the little trick that I learned when I was in college. The reason why I want you to write it down is because it stays with your brain more. If you take an idea or a goal and you write it down, and I don't mean you type it up, actually. Let me actually make sure I'm clear on this. You write it down by hand with a pencil or a pen onto a piece of paper. Like, I want to do this, and this, or I would like to do this, and this. The reason why it's so much more powerful is because it registers stronger with your brain. So, like, for example, when I was in college, I was taking an exam to get my Network Plus, and I remember I was worried about failing because I kept failing the practice test. So what I did was I started writing my notes down instead of typing them up, actually writing them down by hand. And there's a weird kind of internal connection between you and that piece of paper because you wrote it by hand. It's yours by hand, not typed. Your whole arm moved, your wrist moved. And for some reason, that helped me pass. I mean, again, it might not work for everyone, but it helped me. So I think if you write it down and put it somewhere, like on the toilet when you're taking a dump or whatever, you write it down, you put it there, or on your refrigerator or your computer desk, this is what I want to do. And you use it as a reminder to do what you want to do, whatever your plan is. You know, I've had some people actually hit me up and ask me to help them with this, and it's like, well, I don't really have time right now in my life to be like a life coach for one or two specific people, but I can make videos like this and kind of give you a general, broad kind of outlook on, you know, the importance of, you know, working and having a plan and the dangers of complacency, which is really what this whole thing is about. So hopefully I didn't ramble too much on here. I think we're good, but thank you again for watching. And some of y'all have said these are your favorite videos I've done, which they're actually my favorites, and they require no editing, virtually no work at all. They are my favorite videos because it's about more than just wrestling and Dragon Ball and stuff like that. This is about like life, and I've had a crazy life, and I like sharing my life with you and hoping that, you know, you get something from it, you know. And this is the real me. It's the realest videos that I've done. So thank you, and I'll talk to you next time.